Infor builds complete cloud suites for companies in industry-specific markets. We create solutions that take away the mundane tasks from business so our customers can focus on what's important. We're defining the future of work, delivering a unified experience for cloud applications and business process. We've invested $3 billion in R&D. We're constantly expanding our innovation footprint and enhancing our cloud innovation platform, InforOS. InforOS seamlessly connects services to provide a robust integration framework, rapid application development, converged data strategies, IoT capabilities, and a comprehensive AI platform, all built using service design principles for citizen development and innovation. We're giving our customers the ability to be flexible and agile in the cloud. Our core strategy is rooted in InforOS, which is the cloud innovation platform needed for creating competitive advantages through innovation.
Good afternoon and welcome, Log Nation. Thank you for dialing in to our presentation on innovation in logistics. I'm Major Carl Zunker and I'll be the moderator for today's discussion panel. I'm a 24-year aircraft maintainer. I've also had some green door experience working sustainment for MQ-1 and MQ-9 and just finished at Afventures for a PhD in logistics prior to my current assignment in the Rapid Sustainment Office. Even being fairly well versed in the sustainment world, it is really shocking to see the amount of innovation taking place in the Air Force. This presentation could have easily been titled Empowered Sustainment, Smart Sustainment, Guerrilla Logistics, or 1,000 other titles, but the takeaway is the same. There are people working to make sure that we're working smarter and not harder, and they're doing it in ways that people as old as me never imagined possible. If you've not heard of all the amazing organizations involved in today's discussion, that's okay, but rest assured, they can and will make your life easier. As we think about the innovation space and logistics as a frame for our conversation today, I would like to take this time to introduce our distinguished panel members and invite them to tell us a little bit about themselves and their organizations. From Kessel Run, we have Major Emily Fisher. Major Fisher, I'm assuming Kessel Run is not in the context of Star Wars and the 12-parsec route that Han Solo completed. Please enlighten us as to what you do.
Thank you, Carl. Absolutely. So as you mentioned, my name is Emily Fisher. I'm the portfolio owner of Kessel Run's aircraft maintenance suite of apps. I do want to point out that Kessel Run, while it is a really cool name with some good Star Wars ties, who we actually are, we are an Air Force organization, AFL-CMC's Detachment 12. And then a little bit more about me and my portfolio, what we do in our software development. I'm actually a core engineer, 6'2" engineer, and also did my last assignment as a 21A out at Nellis Air Force Base, got to know the maintainers, the way they work out there. And then a perfect transition here to start building the aircraft maintenance software. My job is really to make sure that the teams are aligning the products that they are building to meet the user's needs and put you all first.
All right, thank you, Emily, and welcome. In keeping with the theme of cool names, from Tesseract, we have Lieutenant Colin Jadashik. I may be wrong here, but I'm guessing you don't have the space stone in your possession. So please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. So my name is Lieutenant Colin Jadashik. I'm a 21A and one of the 16 core cadre members of Tesseract. So our organization operates as a strategic accelerator to offer innovators across the logistics enterprise a connection path to available resources like advocacy, influence, policy, and partners such as the one sitting on this panel. Our mission is to empower, connect, and accelerate airmen ideas that have the potential to recover readiness and operationalize the strategic sustainment framework. Simply put, we are the jet engine that collects problem statements and innovative ideas to then connect you with the resources required to produce thrust for accelerated policy change and implement solutions that align with other strategic priorities. Think of us similar to how the tech industry has accelerators behind all their hypergrowth. Companies like Airbnb or Uber. We want to be in the business of accelerating game-changing ideas like MyCap Prime and Ursus, from crazy idea to the way we do business.
Thank you, Colin, and welcome. Although it's not a fantastical name, it is a fantastic organization. From the Air Force Rapid Sustainment Office in the I-2 Division, we have Miss Jenica Simone. Please tell us about the Rapid Sustainment Office.
Hi there. Yeah, my name is Jenica Simone. I am the Deputy Lead PM for the Innovation and Integration Branch under the Rapid Sustainment Office, which falls under LCMC. A little bit about us. We were a SecAF mandated organization charged with rapidly fielding sustainment capabilities at the speed of relevance. And with the overall objective to transform not only logistics, maintenance, but also the sustainment enterprise as a whole. So a little bit about I-2 specifically. We are the front door to the RSO. What that means, we are charged with technology scouting, as well as expanding the defense industrial base, while, feeding the RSO IAS pipeline, which is the identify, apply, and scale approach to accelerating that path to scale for those disrupted technologies. A little about myself. The majority of my experience, I was at Hill Air Force Base as a legislative liaison there. But I've also worked in the supply chain as well as in the comm group and with public affairs.
Excellent. Thank you, Jenica, and welcome. And last but certainly not least, we have Captain Garrett Custins from AFWorks. Please tell us about what it is you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. So AFWorks as a whole, we're kind of the catch-all be-all for anything and everything innovation. And really what we're trying to do is seed an environment where other teams can succeed and airmen at the lowest level. We do that with 3 different teams. We've got Spark, Ventures, and Prime, as well as some other teams we're looking to roll out soon. So hopefully more on that later. But Prime is more focused on game-changing commercial technology and seeding an environment where that can happen, a little bit more acquisition focused. Then Ventures is focused on anything industry, so private equity, venture capital, really trying to bring non-traditional companies into the U.S. government and more capital into the U.S. government. So a little bit more acquisition focus there as well. And then we've got Spark that focuses on airmen and people, a little bit more of talent management. And our job is to empower the lowest airmen to solve real problems for real people. And that's the team that I belong to, specifically for Spark Cells. And what Spark Cells are base level innovation. And think about them as a quasi incubator slash accelerator, where an airman can have an idea, and there's a lot that gets in the way of that airman solving that problem. So they can go into the Spark Cell, and the Spark Cell can help them with that, whether it's expertise, funding, knowledge, connections, time. So that's where we are, and anything and everything that helps those airmen at the lowest level solve those problems, that's what we'll touch.
Awesome. Thank you, Garrett, and welcome. As you can see, we have a lot of brain power here to talk about an exciting topic, the innovation space. I would guess that not everyone listening today knew that the Air Force had as many formal organizations working diligently to bring innovative solutions to the warfighter. With the amount of programmatic diversity we have here, Jenica, can you tell us when the RSO will be getting us our flying cars, or at least our cyber trucks? Now, in all seriousness, though, the Air Force seems to be mirroring a lot of what industry is doing as far as leaning into and investing in innovation. We've gone from industrial revolution to mass production and the introduction of computers into industry, and now this thing they're calling Industry 4.0. So for the RSO, how are preparations for Industry 4.0 impacting the RSO and the DoD? And what are the RSO initiatives of Summit and Lighthouse? How do they all push sustainment forward?
Thanks for that question, Major Zunker. So simply put, Industry 4.0 is exactly what the RSO Summit and Lighthouse are targeted to perpetuate, which is establishing an automated, intertwined, and innovative sustainment environments, or industrial Internet of Things, which you've probably heard about before, and crafting it to continue to evolve and remain on the tech edge. So they are just 2 of our many paths to scale, but the Lighthouse specifically is constructed to do so because it's essentially a massive use case for the 57 Strike AMU at Nellis. From systems and support equipment to processes, for example, it's perpetuating a technology that allows for instantaneous IMDS input straight from the flight line, so the point of maintenance, to network connectivity and then network constructs overall. So what the lighthouse again perpetuates is the fact that the RSO is looking at every echelon of what's needed to rapidly modernize how we achieve the sustainment mission. And using this fighter lens is just a start. Similarly, the summit pathway to scale is where the RSO crafts cross-cutting approaches, again, whether it entails a system, a process, hardware, software, et cetera. By combining or advancing disruptive techs, we find into multi-impact solution sets that span either across various functional communities or aircraft platforms, excuse me. So again, just two of our ways that we're feeding into the Industry 4.0 concept, moving into the future, and using Summit and Lighthouse as just two paths to accelerate that path to scale there.
That's great info, Jenica. Thank you. It sounds like that's 4.0 isn't necessarily a destination, but a journey to get there. So with that, we'll talk about Infinity Stones now. Colin, it seems like a investment in innovation is really starting to bear fruit, especially moving some of the people from education with industry and AFIT, along with other top performers, into Tesseract. How did Tesseract come to be in existence?
Thank you, sir. And that's a great question. So our story, the origin of Tesseract, actually rooted from two education with industry fellows, Majors Kelsey Smith and Garrett Hernandez. Their experiences at Delta Airlines and Amazon are helping enable logistics and maintenance airmen leverage proven aviation reliability methods, predictive maintenance programs, and certain supply chain practices. Their programs also provided a lot of insights into using advanced applications such as analytics, big data, software DevOps, automation, and robotics. So Tesseract was the chartered solution to assist with adapting these practices for the Air Force's environment, to then capitalize on the readiness potential. Even more important than the idea of Tesseract was the huge support that we've received from senior leaders like Brigadier General Hurry and Lieutenant General Barry. They've done such an amazing job of providing that top cover and assuming the necessary risks in giving us the opportunity to establish this team, which we were able to utilize hiring methods similar to the tech industry and the ability to experiment on small and large projects and pathfinders. So now it's our job to deliver on that promise by unlocking the readiness within the untapped potential of ideas submitted by airmen in the field.
As we consider some of the technological innovation, talking about the support that the buy-in that we're getting from the field on some of these issues, we also have to understand that innovation doesn't stop at the flight line or the warehouse. There are innovations to be made in how we do business. So Colin, can you tell us a little bit about what Tesseract is working on with process improvements in the theory of constraints?
Sure thing, and that's another great question. So for just a little bit of context, TOC is a management methodology used to obtain and maintain efficiencies in a highly variable and unpredictable organization such as logistics. So without asking for more money or manpower, it tackles problems from a holistic systems view, taking into account the interdependencies of agencies within and outside the organization. So in turn, this taps into that unrealized potential of the system, which allows for accomplishing more with resources already available. And our TOC Pathfinder is actually expanding past our existing partnership with the world-class Gold Rat Consulting Group to major engagements at over a dozen bases. And if that wasn't enough, our team is also creating an organic framework for scaling TOC to additional bases through an effort called Slingshot, which is actually an airman-created adaptation of the Gold Rat method for rapidly seeding and scaling additional efforts to even more bases.
All right, and Garrett, I see you've got your hand up here to chime in on this as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, I really just wanted to hammer in on what DZ was talking about here, where Garrett and Kelsey coming over from, I believe, correct me wrong, was it Delta and Amazon? But somewhere in the airlines and Amazon, that's a tremendous model where we see in the Air Force a lot of times people will come over into their job and it takes them 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get spun up. These individuals came in, not only spun up, but far more knowledgeable than anyone had ever been in that position. So we're trying to leverage that as well. We think that's an excellent tool. So if you're an EWE fellow and you're interested in coming over to work for AFWorks, we're certainly interested in having a conversation with you. That's what I did. I went to EWE, and then my follow-on assignment was to AFWorks. So this is a tried and proven model that we'd love to capitalize more on. So.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good information for the field. I see a lot of the notifications going out where folks are hiring and trying to get people into that innovative space. Garrett, we'll continue on. It sounds like AFWorks has a broad view of innovation, from technology to talent and transitions. How are you focused on creating warfighter agility, and what's that agility look like to you from a program perspective?
Yeah, that's a good question. And really, there's a couple different ways to tackle that. I mean, you can look at it from warfighter agility to getting the airmen on the flight line to solving those problems and transitioning those into successful solutions. So actual problems solved on the flight line by an airman, or you can look at tackling the agility of the traditional acquisitions process to make it easier for people to fit in there. And we've got some individuals that tackle both sides of that pipeline. So you got the Afventures team and the Prime team that are really trying to tackle that acquisitions process and make it a little bit more flexible, a little bit more malleable. So that way, when new technology comes in the door, you don't have to wait 2 years to palm for it, or 3 years, or 4 years, or 5 years to bring it in the door. And that's kind of their bread and butter. And our bread and butter on the other side of the house is enabling airmen to solve problems. So that way, it's not an airman on the flight line with a problem, and then his supervisor says, "Oh, that's not your job to solve that. Somebody 3,000 miles away is going to solve that." So that's where we're trying to provide them the tools to be able to solve those at the lowest level, whether that's squadron innovation funds, time. I mean, once again, these airmen are all gonna run into roadblocks when trying to solve a problem. Time, funding, expertise, champions, leadership support, whatever the case may be. So everything that we're doing is trying to tackle one of those hurdles to enable airmen to do that. So we do provide squadron innovation funds. Sometimes it's contracting. Base level contracting hasn't dealt with RDT&E funds, or they just haven't executed innovative procurements. So that's where the SIBR pipeline could be a good avenue. Sometimes it's champions, and that's where we're not necessarily doing it, but we're pushing these airmen over to someone like DZ or over to Kessel Run, and we're like, hey, these individuals want to support you, assuming it's in their career field. I'm sure DZ's a good guy, but he's probably not going to want to touch some space project. But if it's relevant, there's players, there's champions in every one of these fields. So we try to connect the right people to the right problem solvers.
Awesome. I know for acquisitions, my experience in it, a lot of times when you look at like palming process and things, it's kind of like steering a big ship, that the inputs aren't going to be felt immediately. So this seems like a way for the field to reach out and actually get answers to the questions and issues they have. With that, Emily, Kessel Run applies the idea of innovation in a very unique way, something I wouldn't have considered. You look at software. And admittedly, I think a lot of end users kind of just employ what gets placed in front of us. How has Kessel Run improved software acquisitions, and what do these improvements mean for the Air Force and Big L logistics moving forward?
That's a great question, a good way to describe what Kessel Run is. I think a lot of folks forget that we have the whole acquisition side in what we do as well. So it really ties into what everyone else has been talking about so far today. The way that we really balance out our hybrid acquisitions and operations unit is, again, using some of those industry standards to develop the software. But we have probably just as many, if not more, acquisitions professionals in our office as we do coders, designers, and project managers managing all the work that's done. But some of the practices that we use to make sure not only we're acquiring good software, but then really in the business of kind of building out the software and everything else that supports it for those users is by using two principles: user-centered design and Devsecops. And with those, what you get is a product to the user quicker with these short feedback loops. So instead of your traditional waterfall process of writing requirements, spending years and years perfecting those requirements and really trying to get that data down to a T, we get speed that up a little bit. We have high level requirements, a product that is needed to be built. And then from there, the teams are empowered to do their own work, do their own research with the users, make sure that we're going in the right direction. So this requires us to have really good relationships with those users It requires, especially in the DevSecOps side of what we can benefit from, is the automation and testing of the code that we're pushing. And then we're able to push code out and get new products and features out to users in a matter of weeks instead of the years or decades that it currently takes. One thing I'll point out, though, too, that, like I said, this really takes a good relationship with users. This is something users aren't necessarily used to. They're maybe not used to being part of the acquisition process. They're not used to getting a say in what they're doing and what's being made for them. So it's something that we've definitely had to work with leadership from high levels in DoD, as well as leadership at the bases that we're working with, to really empower those end users to have a say and to make decisions on what is going to be best for them in their future.
Awesome. And I know RSO has a little bit of a stake in the game for software also. Jenica, I see your hand up. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on Emily's comments and how important it is to cultivate those relationships at the various stakeholder levels. I know within the RSO that is something that is part of the reason why we are able to remain agile and have cultivated such a good working relationship with not only the end user community, but for the ultimate customer and then any potential partners moving forward. And I think that's key. Especially when you're competing with an industry that is changing by the minute.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Emily, I'm not sure what the feedback loops are for, we'll get into that a little bit later, but I'm going to give you a freebie here, cyber awareness training. Okay, that's a software we need, that's got to go. We need something better. It feels
I'll
like
see if I can talk to the bosses and get it fit into the portfolio.
There you go. It feels like every organization has a little bit different innovation flavor. Garrett, how does AFWERX partner with Kessel Run, Tesseract, the RSO? How do we all work together in concert to reduce the duplication of effort?
No, that's a really good question. I was just talking to some contracting officers earlier today about that. I think the answer is heavily. We partner with these individuals heavily, and I think the answer is also not nearly enough. The way that AFWERX looks at us, it looks at this network, this ecosystem is, I view us as left of a lot of these individuals, the Spark team at least, left of these individuals. Our job is innovation and culture in the Spark team, and our job is to prep the battlefield for individuals. So we should be working with airmen at the lowest level so that we can ideally have them prototype using squadron innovation funds at the lowest level so that by the time we pass them over to Kessel Run, they know how to code because we've given them training funds so they can go do that. By the time we pass them over to Tesseract, they actually have a product and they're really going to Tesseract to scale that product. We've even seen some base level individuals partner with the RSO because the RSO, typically the labs, they always want to plug into the end users because labs can be isolated geographically and conceptually. So they love plugging into the end users to get feedback on their products. So really, this ecosystem, it's interesting. Everyone kind of wants to talk to each other and everyone wants to work with each other. And what happens, it seems like such a perfect fit that you're confused why this stuff didn't happen before. And then there's also other teams where you got the Ventures and the Prime team where we view ourselves as also transition partners for these individuals. So we do own the cyber portfolio for the Air Force, and that's something that all three of these teams have and will continue to tap into. So maybe we can be a source of funding for these individuals. But like I said, I think we tap into these individuals heavily and not nearly enough because there's a lot of duplication of efforts and there's a fine balance between collaboration and competition. And right now we're leaning far too heavily towards competition. Just because people don't know what other people are working on. So we got some projects in the works to hopefully identify some of those things. I'll say I never want to get rid of competition because I think when you compete, you get the best product. But maybe that means 3 projects competing against each other instead of 25 or 30 different airmen working on the same things.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Jenica, I see your hand up. Do you have something to add in on this?
Yeah, so just to piggyback off of what Garrett said, we in the RSO specifically, and I too completely echo everything that you said, and really have tried to emphasize cutting down on that duplication of effort, right? Because yeah, competition is good to a certain degree. However, we want to leverage and exploit what's already been done, right? With the ultimate end goal. So one of the initiatives that we have currently underway is what we're going to call the track data technology capture. It's partially in line with our tech scouting role in I2, but ideally it would capture and provide a top level roll up in a dashboard type of format of everything that's going on, whether it's SIBRs, and not just within the Air Force, but across DoD and the government for that matter. With regards to robotic process automation, which will be the future and how we do everything, there's so much that's already been done. So our thought is, why reinvent the wheel? So yeah, totally align, and hopefully that'll be something that emerges sooner rather than later. So.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Garrett. You got a response for it?
Yeah, I think this is a perfect example of where we've got duplication of efforts, and we collaborate heavily, but we need to collaborate more. Janica, that's an awesome project. We're working on something similar. Would love to sync up and potentially leverage each other's resources.
Absolutely.
Look at that. Solving Air Force problems right here for LOA. It feels a little bit like the Wild West is how I've heard it explained for the innovation space. And I think you're right. We're all deputized for the Air Force. We're all trying to get the bad guys on the same team. So a portfolio is a good way to look at all of our innovation efforts. It's all going towards the same end zone. Colin, I'll piggyback a little bit off of that question. I'll ask you if there's anything you see as a Tesseract specific capability, what problems are best suited for the Tesseract team?
Sure. And Garrett definitely hit it on the head, where we see ourselves as a unique capability that can help airmen develop their ideas and problem statements using a design thinking approach. And then we can assist with identifying the most appropriate way to scale it across the enterprise. So we do this by providing that connective tissue between the field units, MAGCOMs, and program offices, which all have a very important piece in implementation and sustainment. So this partnership with entities across the enterprise is key, because as explained with TOC, the only way to that big ideas can shape or take form is by approaching them with a system of systems methodology. So in that light, we're able to build up a team with functional managers and process owners from very early on. And right now, actually, we're accepting ideas and problem statements through our Idea Scale campaign. So if you're interested in submitting, please log into the U.S. Air Force's Idea Scale website and search for the Enduring Tesseract campaign. This is the same submission platform used for Spark Tank and the Vice Chief Challenge. And the last thing I just want to mention real quick is that we are very much operating in a lean startup culture of being able to produce results without needing an extraordinary amount of resources.
All right, awesome. And Garrett, you got something to add on this?
I do not. That's just me leaving my hand up. Sorry. We'll edit that one out.
No worries. All right, Colin, with that problem set being your expertise, what projects do you have in the works that would amaze and astound Log Nation today?
Yeah, we see a lot of promise in the Pathfinders that we're directly sponsoring currently. So, for example, what if we could save 24 hours in fulfillment time on every in-stock aircraft grounding MyCap at a CONUS location simply by just borrowing a page from Amazon Prime's playbook? So just last summer, our MyCap Prime initiative proved that the supply and transportation enterprise can deliver these results across multiple MAGCOMs and weapon systems, ultimately putting MyCaps in the hands of maintainers almost an entire day faster. When the part's on the shelf, why wouldn't we leverage this concept? The logistics board approved that exact measure, and we're currently partnering with a lot of key players across the enterprise to graduate this Pathfinder to just the way we do business, to include putting together some plans for how these principles can scale then to OCONUS MyCaps as well. On this front, inspection development framework and kitting Pathfinder is how we're proving out industry best practices through increasing aircraft utilization and worldwide strategic airlift capability through holistic scheduling and kitting. We've proven this concept out with our partners, with experts from Georgia Tech Research Institute and Delta Tech Ops. In fact, GTRI and Delta experts have been shoulder to shoulder with our program office, engineers, supply chain professionals, and the airmen out at Dover and Travis, making unprecedented moves to help increase responsiveness to TACC by right-sizing inspection packages and opportunistically scheduling maintenance around the flying schedule. And then finally, one of our last Pathfinders that I wanted to mention, just imagine an Air Force where the dep order drops and we need to get out of town. And we do that in half the time because now maintainers can stay on the flight line and focus on that sortie generation piece instead of standing in line somewhere at a warehouse waiting on mobility gear. This concept is known as URSUS. It was originally briefed by Lieutenant General Barry at the LOA main stage just over a year ago by Jaber Airmen, and it's now a Tesseract Pathfinder. So a strategic partnership with the Air Force Research Lab's Information Directorate. The goal of URSUS is to code and field an enhanced user interface application to connect and coexist with our legacy IT systems. So we're really excited to see how this can be tested and utilized at Exercise Polar Force this spring. So ideally, we'll prove something we really feel strongly about, that new technology can solve old problems, and if done right, they may even push the envelope and shrink our doc statement response times to get and stay inside the enemy's OODA loop. So on top of all this, we are big believers in the work that the organizations represented on this stage are pursuing. For example, we have frequent touch points with the Air Force Spark community and AFWERX. We have frequent touch points with Kessel Run's Torque app for maintainers, and then also the various technologies the Rapid Sustainment Office is working to field will certainly push our enterprise into the future.
Now, I'm not sure for some of these young folks may not realize, but that going from being briefed last year to kind of being in your portfolio and in your wheelhouse this year, that is the epitome of the rapid sustainment idea, right? That is a quick turnaround. I'll also give you a free idea here for the, taking the Prime shipment idea from Amazon. I'm saying it's Air Force Optimus Prime. Okay, that's I'm going to throw that one out there. That's a freebie. You can have that one.
I will definitely write that down.
Well, they did record one of the Transformers out at Vegas a while back. Emily, I'm going to guess that anything in the realm of software is your domain. What projects are the most exciting for you? What's going to be most exciting for us as the user?
Yeah, absolutely. The portfolio that I get to work on is definitely exciting to me, coming from the 21A community, but therefore also very exciting to most of the LOA organization users. So the big product that we have is a suite of maintenance apps called Torque, awesome name again, and we currently have over 1,000 users at 20-ish bases, 21 bases to be exact at time of recording, and what the apps offer is a maintenance enterprise way of doing work in one set of software, sharing information back and forth, making sure we have clean data that is being captured and utilized for decision-making processes within day-to-day maintenance. So the way that we've done this is, again, I mentioned we have the user-centered design that we do. We're breaking this huge process of maintaining aircraft into these small steps that we can take so we can get products out to users and get those tested, get that feedback, know where we've maybe gone a little bit wrong, where we're going right, and refine that. So we started by breaking down the maintenance career field, looking at your aircraft maintenance units, kind of those flight line users, and the products that they need. So we specifically have both an ops and scheduling app. So I think probably the first time that both ops scheduling and maintenance scheduling are done in the same system. So you're not passing spreadsheets back and forth trying to talk about what each team needs. We have a personnel management app, making sure that you have the right people. They're certified and qualified to do the work that is needed to be done. And then that really builds on the importance of, like I said, this is a suite of apps. So it's a big team with lots of apps that are being built that all rely on each other. They're definitely stronger when you can use them together and as they're built together. So that personnel management app won't allow you to sign off a work order if you aren't Red X qualified. Your name won't even show up. You have to be logged in. Helps with some of the safety and security in the work that maintainers are doing to keep them out of trouble, right, and keep everyone safe. Of course, need a new tech order viewer as you're doing the maintenance, as well as some aircraft statusing, kind of like think about, mock, but not through radios and phone calls back and forth 100 times, debrief, getting information not only from the pilot who just flew and can tell you about what's wrong, but also in time from the aircraft itself. So working on all of those apps together always getting user or feedback from the users on what we should do next and where we can continue to grow. So it's really exciting. And I wish I could show you all a demo right now, but what I will say instead is please check out the Kessler Run YouTube channel and you can see a demo of most of those apps.
Awesome. I'll tell you from, maintenance perspective, again, I agree with you. The transparency there between the ops and maintenance, just to have something that's a common language. Just hearing about it sounds exciting. So I'm going to go and check that website out and check out the videos myself. From RSO, are there any projects, Jenica? I work there too, so I've seen some of the stuff that we have over there, and boy, I could probably spend a lot of time for this podcast going over some of that. But what are you excited to see coming up? What are the people on the flight line going to be excited to see coming up?
Yeah, and to your point, Major, if we touch on every tech focus area that the RSO is charged, with pursuing, we could talk for hours as to all the exciting things that are happening. But just some noteworthy ones, particularly for data and digital environments focus. What I'm excited about is what we're calling Traxel, and it's essentially a non-intrusive paint-on fiber optic cable. And the intent there is to extend connectivity to, again, at the point of maintenance, right on the flight line, faster, and then obviously in rapid and austere environments as well. Low cost, really fast, environmentally friendly, all of that good stuff. Another one that I'll provide is our Pavilion effort, which again supports both data and digital and rapid and austere. And basically what that is, these are rapidly constructed fixtures and structures for maintenance, whether it's in the AOR or at a depot, because there isn't enough hangar space, right? And the fabric itself is solar powered, and not just panels on top of the fixtures, but actually intertwined in the fabric. So really exciting things as to summit and lighthouse possibilities as that tech continues to mature. Whether that be with the automated toolboxes, smart toolboxes, or whatever the case might be. So again, in the interest of time, I will just leave you with those, but a lot of exciting things going forward with the RSO.
I appreciate the brevity. I know how tough that is because I've seen like the spray down wiring like that. Any aircraft can drive over top of it. It's incredible stuff. Garrett, I know AFWorks also has a lot of really cool things going on out there. What do we need to brace ourselves for? What's coming our way, buddy?
Yeah, we've got a ton. I'll focus internal, just due to this audience. There's not a ton of industry on here, I'm hoping at least. So just internal, there's probably 4 main things that are going on. And happy to talk more through these with anyone. So if you're interested, just let me know. I'm sure we'll send our emails out here somewhere. But probably the big one is engineers. So we're trying to place engineers into operational squadrons. This wasn't driven by AFWorks. This was driven by the Air Force chief scientist. And they've been wanting to do this for a while, but they didn't know how to do it until they connected with AFWorks. And we've got these spark cells that aggregate problems across the base. And it really was just a perfect fit. So I'm actually at Hurlburt Air Force Base right now. And we're looking to get an MVP off the ground in the June, July timeframe at 4 different locations. And we've secured some of the funding. So that's one of the nice things about having this flexibility to move fast and having these really good action officers and having top cover. We're able to place engineers here pretty quickly and see if this works. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we won't do it again. I will say that we were at LRS yesterday and maintenance group today, and we blew way over our timelines because all they wanted to do was like, oh, if we had an engineer, we could do this and this and this and this. And so they were excited for that, and I think that'll be good. Some other ones are going to be some base level fellowship opportunities. Right now, we've got the Afventures Fellowship, which anyone can apply to. If you're interested in working for industry, sign up for the Afventures Fellowship. It's paid for by us right now because there's no TDY cost because everything is remote. But that's where you go work for a private company for 6 weeks, and then you come back to your unit. So it's a miniature version of EWI that's more flexible. We love EWI. We just want to get more people out the door in a smaller manner and tap into a different audience. So if you're interested in working for industry, reach out to us there. But also we're trying to democratize those opportunities so we can get more people out the door. So EWI sent out 74 people last year. We'd like to send out 74,000 people a year. And one way we think we can do that is by running interns or fellowships at the local area at low cost, no cost. And then each base is sending out 50, 100, 200. And that's how you get to 74,000 figure. That might be a little ambitious. We'll see. The other two are going to be innovation as a career field, trying to provide more opportunities for people to come into this space. We're trying to set up billets that are available for people to come in. A lot of people will have to get out of the Air Force to play in this space. So like Kessel Run has some billets, Tesseract has some billets. That's awesome. We'd like to pull some billets into AFWorks and see this environment a little more. And then the last one is going to be our Spark incubator. So we're trying to copy that outside model where we form this massive incubator on the inside of the Air Force. We really push people forward. So you surround them with a bureaucracy busting team, not so much a business busting team, and you surround them with funding resources, put it potentially in DC or right pat. So right pat for the engineers and DC for the generals and the investors. And that way an airman can go TDY into the lab or PCS into the lab after winning Spark Tank. It gives them time to work on their problem. It gives them funding to work on their problem, and it surrounds them with the resources. And someone like Tesseract, like they don't have office space right now, so I'd love to give them some free office space, pull them in, and then suck some work out of them because an airman's right next to them and they have a good idea, and then they can use their knowledge. So those are the big four.
Those are indeed big four. It's great to see us trying to actually get some use out of, like, in years gone by, people would do maybe an EWI type experience and then only use that for OPR fodder, not actually getting anything out of the program. And it feels like the Air Force is really trying to extract some value out of the experiences people have. Jenica, I know as we look at, we're all military folks here, you are on the civilian side, but this is not the first program office you've been a part of. When you consider the RSO and a typical ACAT-1 program, what's the difference from your perspective? What makes RSO different?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So the glaring difference, I would say, is that the RSO is not bound by traditional acquisition approvals or documentation requirements. And we're truly empowered to be agile and think out of the box, go figure it out, because the mission evolves so much too quickly, as you would expect with tech advancing. But so we're definitely, as a flat organization, we're definitely constructed to operate in that manner. And again, I think empowerment is the biggest, is another really big portion to harp on. But those would be the glaring aspects that allow us to operate so much differently than a typical SPO, System Program Office.
All right, and Emily, looking at the Kessel Run website, it says that you deliver these phenomenal capabilities in ways that are faster and more cost-effective than other acquisition methods or practices. What makes Kessel Run so innovative?
Yeah, that's a great question, and probably one of my favorite parts of working in this organization. It's all about the culture and the atmosphere that Kessel Run has, which enables the teams to be extremely sensitive and adaptive to the user's needs. So this allows us to cut out these slow, risk-adverse practices with proven shorter loops and automation. So it's not about saying risk doesn't exist. It's about saying, okay, how can we get that risk to a small enough level where we'll give it a try. If it was too risky, if we got it wrong, we can quickly go back and do it again and keep trying, making sure that we're reevaluating our assumptions and have this learning mindset to continue to push forward. But the way that happens, because you can say you want those things, but the way that really happens is the culture that is set from every member within Kessel Run, every part of the unit. And one of the big things, one of our values that we have is ideas over rank. So we are made up of airmen, officers, civilians, contractors, but it doesn't matter who you are. You are open and free to speak and asked to give your ideas and your thoughts on how we can move forward from your learnings in your life, from your learnings from the users to help us move forward and continue doing the best things possible.
All right, and with that, Emily, I know engineering is expensive and computer engineering seems to be a really competitive space. What draws people to your organization? How do you stay competitive in that regard?
That's another great question and definitely a big challenge that we have. But you'd be surprised how many people are drawn to the culture that we have set up, that culture that I mentioned of everyone's ideas being important, as well as the mission. So I mentioned the aircraft maintenance is one of the products, one of the portfolios that we have, but we have base command and control, intelligent, unit level intelligent, as well as AOC, software to work in those areas. So folks want to support that. They want to get better products out to those users. So that culture and the mission is really what drives a lot of people. And I think you would be surprised by the hidden talent that we have in our airmen and DoD members. It's actually pretty awesome to see how many Big A airmen we have that are part of Kessel Run.
That's awesome. In looking at some of these the innovative things, Garrett, I want to talk a minute about Spark Tank. I think that's such a fascinating opportunity. Can you tell us who wins in 2021? Sneak preview?
I can't give you any inside information.
No insider baseball here. I'm not going to put you on the spot. But there were over 300 people who took place, participated this year. What do you do with the ideas that don't make the finals? How do you make sure that even if the timing maybe isn't right for one of these ideas, but it's a great idea, how do you make sure we don't lose what we've got?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. And it's something we've wrestled with this whole time, because when we first started this process, we said, bring us your ideas. And then we got a lot of ideas. And we didn't initially have the infrastructure in place to support all of those ideas. So we did whittle it down to a couple of winners. And that's not what we want to do, because when you look at these ideas that don't win, a lot of them are phenomenal ideas. So we want to go up and down the entire pipeline. And I think when you look at the rest of the people, even on this call, they enable this ecosystem. So maybe Kessel Run will look at that list and say, hey, there's some really good projects on here for us. Maybe we want to pull some of these into our process or our team. I know that we sat down with Tesseract and went down through the entire list of everything that made the everything that got 50 plus votes from their peers, and they were like, oh, I like this one, like we can support this one. And where they don't have as much funding, they have more manpower than AFWorks, and we have more funding. So we're able to provide cash and funding to opportunities, and they're able to provide resources. So we try to leverage the other innovation teams in this space. There's also the IMSC Rodeo where people can tap into there. So there's a lot of different opportunities, but I'll say this, at the end of the day, there's absolutely opportunities that go in there, and there's projects that go in there that don't get the level of support or massaging that they need. And some of them probably get no massaging and no support from this innovation space. So so this is not everything is hunky-dory, everything is great. We are constantly trying to improve, and we think there's projects in there that we need to spend more time on. One way we're trying to do that is staff up our team and staff up these other teams. We're not there yet, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
So we need to get innovative about how we innovate.
Yes. Maybe sync with Kessel Run, see if we can automate some of this.
There you go. So we've got a bunch of great questions written down here, and I know we're getting a little bit close on time. So I'm gonna throw a couple of questions out to the field. I'll preface this with saying I am by far the oldest person here, and the Air Force is brimming with young people who are more educated, more adaptive, and frankly, more innovative than I ever was, like all of you on this panel. I don't feel like any new technology is beyond the airmen's grasp in the field. How does the capability of our airmen play into the technology we're investing in? What kind of difficulty do we have integrating some of this very complex technology? So this is open to the field, so if you've got an idea, out as I see you.
I can chime into that. So yeah, like you mentioned, the airmen that we have, those users, the ones who are helping us build the products that will help them in their job, they're probably helping us innovate just as much as any of us can, right? They know that their work, they know what needs to be done, but they're also, going home, and whether it's video games or just their typical internet use, or some of them have some great hobbies and talents of coding on their own and those sort of things. They have a lot of great inputs on new ways and new technologies that we can use. So we're not only getting our user feedback about what is your job and how can you better do your job, we're also getting a lot of good feedback from them about, what exists, what their capabilities really are.
All right, that's great. Garrett, what you got?
Yeah, maybe not the same exact thread, but kind of talking about this ecosystem where you're talking about airmen having incredible capabilities and now starting to leverage them. I just think that senior leadership in the Air Force has fostered an incredible environment where we're trying to capture this talent from the airmen, and that didn't really exist 5 to 10 years ago. So we saw this explosion of commercial technology, and we've seen this explosion of talent coming into the Air Force, but not the explosion of grassroots efforts using this talent. So that's where they're like, what's going on? Why isn't this stuff happening? Which is where Kessler Run came from, Afworks came from, Tesseract. All these teams are trying to capture this talent and really get some grassroots efforts going and leverage the airmen's talent. And then you also see this from the more traditional acquisitions pipeline where they've created someone like the RSO. So where you have like Tesseract and Kessel Run, I think of that more as the grassroots efforts going up to meet the traditional acquisitions process. I think of RSO coming to the agility, bringing the traditional acquisitions process into a non-traditional acquisitions process. And really those Kessel Runs, Tesseracts, Afworks, RSOs, I think that's where we all meet.
That's a great input there. I, taking a look at the innovation space and everything, curious how the reserve and the guard play into this. There's a ton of great questions. I think we could do another hour on this topic easily. But in the interim, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give every member of Log Nation listening today an opportunity to participate. To ask how they get involved. We'll have a question and answer session after this, and all of us will be available to speak to that. But how do they transmit their demand signal to the people on this chat today? How do they tell you what they need? How do they join this wave of innovation? I'll start with Afworks. How do people not only transmit their demand signal, but how do they jump on the team with you?
Yeah, so there's a lot of onboarding ramps. None are perfect. I would say the more you can tap into, the better. So ideally, you've got a base level Spark Cell team you can tap into where you can work your projects through them, and they've got funding. Another way is submitting through IdeaScale for Spark Tank. That's a great way to get an idea out there, but also to get yourself identified as a potential innovator, entrepreneur within this space. I'd say those are the two biggest opportunities. Actually, and as I think about it, the third would be we are always looking for SBIR graders, SBIR, STTR graders. We break those things into several categories. So if you're interested in getting involved in this space, you don't grade the whole package, you just grade one category. So we'll send out the link where you can sign up to be an SBIR and STTR grader and get exposure to something new. So if you're looking for an OPR, EPR bullet where you're trying to try something new, that could be a great opportunity. Or if you're just looking to try something outside your day-to-day job, you can go evaluate tech companies and see what's out there.
All right, great. And Tesseract, how do people get in touch with you and tell you what they need? How do they join your team?
Absolutely. I'll default again back to IdeaScale as being the quickest method to get in contact with us and having your voice heard. And we're not looking for any kind of full up, projects or ideas. We're looking for just your idea at any point, and also problem statements. So we just want to hear your voice, as well as we'll send out links. Please visit our virtual booth. We'll have a lot more on how to connect with us on social media, and reach out through those methods. Thank you.
Great. Kessel Run, who do I need to tell that I don't want to do the cyber training next year? Who do I talk to?
Yeah, so Carl, if you check kesselrun.af.mil, go to that website. Not only can you get in touch with our external engagement team, and they'll help you, get connected to the right folks, but you can also take a look at that. And like I mentioned, the YouTube site that we have as well, and learn about all the other products and portfolios that we have at Kessel Run that I haven't even come close to doing justice.
Emily, thank you. And I'll say, I complain a lot about one specific thing, but all the people out there listening are smart and have great ideas. So I'm sure they'll use it for something better than what I'm complaining about. Finally, for the RSO, how do people listening out there today communicate their needs to you aside from emailing me, which is perfectly fine. I like connecting people. But for RSO, what do they do?
Yeah, I will second that. Again, we're small but mighty in the I2, but again, we're the front door to the RSO. So I would encourage anyone with any ideas or maybe tech that you may think that we are not tracking, or just in general interest, just to reach out to us directly. But other than that, I would encourage anyone interested in learning more or connecting with us to visit our websites, www.afrso.com, or follow us on LinkedIn. We'd be happy to hear from you and look forward to it.
Awesome. So that is pretty much the question and answer. I will say, for everybody who's out there listening today, I've been through a lot of iterations of innovation in the Air Force, from AFSO 21 to Lean and Six Sigma. And a lot of the previous innovation ideas were kind of forced fit. Like, we're going to do this and everybody's going to get on board. And as we've talked about the grassroots movement, a lot of this is the airmen have bought in. The airmen have these great ideas, and we're either going to do something with them or we're going to bleed talent. And we've decided to do something with it. So all the organizations who have come out today, AFWorks, Tesseract, Kessel Run, RSO, thank you so much for being here. I'm sure there's a lot of other organizations that you can reach out to. If you have a great idea, do not operate in a vacuum. If you're looking at buying a new technology or bringing something out online, check the websites. Check the idea programs, and just make sure that you don't have to start from zero. A lot of the legwork has been done. Hopefully we'll get the portfolios working so that we'll have a place, a one-stop shop. But we need to innovate on that. We're not there yet. So again, I thank everybody for participating, and I think that'll do it for us.